Hey guys, tonight we slip into a world of twisted prophecies, mutagen potions, and destiny that won't take no for an answer. You're Geralt of Rivia now. Yes, the grumpy guy with the wolf medallion and the hair that looks like it got bleached by trauma. It all begins before you're even fully formed. The snow crunches beneath tiny boots, the wind screams through narrow canyons, and in the distance, that's not thunder. It's a wyvern coughing up its last meal. You probably won't survive this. No, really. Most don't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see who else is drifting off in their own corner of the continent. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start as just a boy. Nothing white-haired or blade-wielding about you yet. Your name? Well, that doesn't matter much. You're just another poor kid handed over as payment for the law of surprise. You didn't ask for this. Your parents probably didn't even know what it meant when they agreed to the deal. Surprise. You're Witcher material now. Kaer Morhen looms before you, a fortress carved from grim stone and chill mist. It doesn't welcome you. It swallows you. Inside, old witches leer at you like you're a failed recipe about to be tossed out. Vesemir's the least scary of the bunch, and even he talks like he chews gravel for breakfast. You're taught to swing wooden swords that hit like bricks, dodge swinging logs, and memorize monster anatomy charts with more enthusiasm than school ever asked of you. You learn to fight before you're big enough to lift the armor they'll one day strap you into. When other boys fall asleep to lullabies, you nod off counting necrophage classifications. The food? Oh, you mean the hearty stew that tastes suspiciously like boiled socks. They swear it helps with stamina. You start suspecting the cook is experimenting with drowners. The nights are the worst. Cold wind rattles the shutters, and sometimes, you swear you hear something in the walls. Something big. But that's nonsense, right? Probably just Lambert snoring with his mouth open again. You're not allowed to cry. Emotions are inefficient, you're told. So you tuck them deep, somewhere between your third broken rib and that failed sign you nearly set your eyebrows on fire with. You're trained in the signs early. Ard, Igni, Quen, Yarden, Axi. They tell you they're simple tricks, basic forms of magic, but you quickly realize they're the difference between becoming a monster hunter and becoming monster food. Axe is fun. You can confuse people with it. You test it on a fellow trainee, and he spends the afternoon petting a broom. A mainstream Witcher fact, your famed yellow eyes are part of the mutation package. They let you see in the dark, which is great until you realize how many things are in the dark. And a fringe tidbit? There's a rumor one of the early witches once tried taming a basilisk. Kept it as a pet. It ended exactly how you'd expect. There's still a stain on the north courtyard wall. As you grow, the training gets crueler. You're tossed into swamps to practice stamina. Blindfolded and made to track creatures that don't want to be found. You're told to identify toxins by smell alone. Someone fails. They're buried that afternoon. No big speech. Just more stew that night. Your body starts to change. You're leaner, stronger, faster, but that comes with a cost. Sleep becomes shallow. Food loses taste. You become other. The world outside Kaer Morhen is a rumor, whispered during breaks. Cobbled towns, one boy says, with inns that serve roasted chicken. You dream of those inns, the smell of warm bread, a place where people don't bleed when you hit them. One winter morning, you wake up to find two of your fellow trainees gone. No goodbye, just empty beds and quiet eyes from the others. You learn not to ask questions. You discover the wolf medallion one day, placed on your cot. Cold metal, shaped like a snarling beast. It's not a toy. It vibrates when danger is near, a sixth sense humming against your chest. You wear it like a second skin. In time, it'll be the only thing you trust. There are whispers about you among the older witches. Something about your reaction time, your ability to heal. Promising, Vesemir mutters, sharpening a blade longer than your leg. You want to be proud, but you've also seen what promising gets you here. More dangerous trials, less margin for error. One of the senior witches, Eskel, scarred and dry-humid, teaches you how to track with your ears alone. You spend 2 days blindfolded in the woods. You hear every leaf twitch, every branch creak. When you finally make it back, Eskel gives you a nod. It's the highest praise you'll get all year. Sometimes you think of running, just disappearing into the woods. But then what? You wouldn't make it 10 steps before something out there made you regret it. Kaer Morhen may be cruel, but it's the kind of cruel you know. At night, you press your hand against the cold window, looking out over the snow-blasted valley, and wonder what kind of man you're becoming. Not a knight, not a hero, definitely not a bard, just something forged from frost and steel. And deep in your gut, you know, this is only the beginning. The trial of grasses comes with no fanfare, no warning, no goodbye to the childhood you barely had. One day you're swinging a sword against a straw dummy, the next you're strapped to a wooden table, veins bulging, skin clammy, and breath coming in ragged shivers. They don't explain what the concoction is, just that it will either kill you or make you into something else. You already know the odds. 3 out of 10 boys don't walk out of this. The ones who do, they never quite walk the same. You're injected with a thick, greenish liquid. It burns like boiling oil. Your body convulses. You vomit. You scream. At least, you think you do. Everything blurs into a fever dream of fire behind your eyes and wolves howling from inside your skull. At some point, the world goes black. When you wake up, it's dark, but not like before. You see the dark now, its layers, its movement, the twitch of a rat's tail in the corner, the breath of a fly landing on your arm. You blink, your eyes sting, but the air feels clearer somehow, crisper. The trial is over. You've survived. Your body has changed. Muscles tighten in ways they shouldn't. Reflexes fire before thought. You feel stretched, like someone pulled your soul taut. Food tastes metallic. Sleep, when it comes, is dreamless and short. That fringe tidbit they never mention? Your hair turns white, not all at once, but over weeks. At first you think it's the light. Then you realize it's you. It's like your body bleached itself from the inside, scrubbing out anything that once resembled innocent. Mainstream Witcher fact: the trial of grasses is just the beginning of your mutations. The real cocktail, reflex enhancers, toxin filters, ocular adaptation, isn't complete until months later. You're now immune to most poisons. Handy when your next breakfast might be a roasted necrophage liver. They start calling you the White Wolf. It's not a compliment. It's more like labeling a sword. Dangerous, rare, probably cursed. Your senses become weapons. You hear footsteps before they land. You taste copper when someone nearby is bleeding. You feel the heartbeat of creatures hiding under floorboards. You are the monster under the bed, if the bed were a rickety tavern cot, and the monster also knew 3 kinds of swordplay and how to cast yard and circle. Of course, the downside is that everything becomes louder. You have to learn to filter the world, like squinting with your ears. Someone drops a spoon 2 rooms away, and your nerves jolt like you've been stabbed. Vesemir begins your post-trial training. Less about surviving, more about control. How to hold back even when your instincts scream. How to sheath a blade when your body whispers otherwise. How to smile at a terrified peasant even though your face wants to snarl. There's a particular afternoon you never forget. You're blindfolded, again, sent into the woods with a dull blade and no sign magic. You're told to track a fiend. Alone. It's a test. The forest whispers things to you now. The crunch of bark under hooves. The spatter of blood where a rabbit once lived. You follow, half hunting, half hoping it won't find you first. The fiend attacks at dusk. Its antlers tear through a tree like parchment. You roll, stab, dodge, run. The fight is clumsy, primal, desperate. When it's over, you're bleeding, panting, with one boot missing and the fiend twitching in its death throes. You drag its head back to Kaer Morhen. No one says good job, but that night, someone slides you a bowl of actual soup, with seasoning, a luxury. From then on, you're allowed to join patrols. Just simple things: clear out a nest of drowners, scare off a griffin. It's not glamorous. You stink of rot most days, and villagers eye you like you're one cracked fingernail away from murder. But you're earning your keep now. That feels new. One night, Eskel tells you about witches who tried to live normal lives, bought farms, married barmaids. He spits into the fire. Didn't end well. You ask why. He just shrugs. We don't fit. We're shaped wrong. You start noticing that. The way people recoil. How kids cry when you pass by. How a simple handshake from you can crush someone's fingers. You learn to walk lightly, speak slowly, and always keep one hand near your blade. You're taught to read contracts closely. The real monsters, Vesemir says, are the ones with lawyers. You don't fully understand that until years later, when a baron tries to stiff you over a basilisk job. You get your coin in the end. You always do. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, you sneak up to the tallest tower and look at the stars. You try to remember your mother's face. You can't. You try to imagine what life might have been without the trial. You stop quickly. That way lies madness. Your wolf medallion hums one night without warning. You're in the library, reading a bestiary. It buzzes like a wasp against your skin. You rush to the cellar. A wraith has slipped in through the old catacombs. You banish it with a mix of axi and salt, your first solo banishment. You're not praised, but the older witches stop giving you side glances after that. Eventually, they say you're ready for the path. The real world. Contracts, coins, chaos. You're handed a steel sword, polished and plain. Then, the silver one, gleaming, etched with runes. It hums when you draw it, like it knows it'll be bathed in blood soon. You pack light, just your blades, a few potions, a salve for burns, and a couple of dried meat strips that taste like betrayal. You mount your horse, one of several indistinct brown mares they cycle through. You call her Roach. You'll call all your horses Roach. It's easier that way. Naming them anything else just invites grief. And just like that, you leave Kaer Morhen behind. The fortress shrinks behind you. You don't look back, because looking back, that's for people who have something to go back to. You ride through frost-bitten valleys and breathless forests, through towns that smell of pigs and old bread, past roadside shrines to gods you don't believe in, because believing gets you killed quicker than disbelief ever will. Roach clops steadily, her ears twitching at every crunch of gravel. You hum to her sometimes. Nothing lyrical, just the sort of half-tunes people whistle when they're trying not to feel alone. Your first contract on the path is underwhelming. A grain merchant in Lower Posoda claims a demon is spoiling his crops. You investigate. It's a pack of neckers digging under the fields. You kill 3 before the rest scatter. You're paid in barley and a chicken. You don't even like chicken. Mainstream Witcher fact: witches don't hunt for glory. They hunt for coin. Your medallion doesn't vibrate for attention. It vibrates for danger. For magic. And right now, it's giving you nothing but silence and a faint whiff of roasted poultry. You find shelter that night in a stable. The hay is moldy and the pigs snore louder than the innkeeper. But it's dry, and your boots stop squelching for a while. You practice Igni under your breath, fingers twitching flame into the dark until sleep catches you by the throat. In the following weeks, you pick up other contracts. A spectre haunting a mill turns out to be an old widow throwing rocks because the townsfolk stole her goats. A drowner nest in a well, solved with a barrel of fire and one long night of screaming. A cursed doll in a child's bedroom. You don't ask where it came from. You just burn it, salt the corners, and tell the mother to stop letting her kids sleep with relics from swamps. You keep moving. Villages blur into each other. Ale starts to taste the same. Every tavern has one drunk who thinks he can take a witcher in a fight. You try not to kill them. Usually. One fringe tidbit you discover early. Drowners can't resist fermented plum juice. You use it as bait once in a pinch, and 5 of the gangly freaks waddle out like toddlers after nap time. You dispatch them with a silver dagger and a growled curse. The juice? Still good. You bottle it for next time. Then comes the girl in red. You find her crying near a burnt cart on the road to Velen. Her dress is torn, blood on her cheek, voice shaking. Bandits, she says, took her family, killed her dog, left her with nothing. You offer her a seat behind your saddle. She clings to you all the way to the next village. When you get there, she slips a dagger between your ribs and runs off with your coin pouch. You live, obviously, barely, but lesson learned, pain doesn't always come with claws. That wound festers, not the physical one, the other kind. The reminder that for all your mutations and muscle, you're still human enough to get played. You track her days later, but don't kill her. You just take your coin back. She's already picked another mark. You leave her with a warning and a bruised ego. You'll thank me, you mutter, even though you're not sure you mean it. Months pass. Your reputation grows in whispers. The White Wolf, some call you. Butcher of Blaviken, others mutter, though that story's a long way off. You earn enough to buy better armor, reinforce your boots, restock your potions. Swallow, cat, thunderbolt. You get used to the taste of nightshade and the sting of potion backlash. Your veins go black for an hour after each dose, but you get faster, stronger, meaner. You also start talking to Roach more, because who else is going to listen? Sometimes she seems to understand you. Sometimes she farts when you finish a story. Either way, it's comforting. You stay in a town called Oxenfurt for a while. You take work from the university, creatures found in riverbeds, something snarling near the dormitories. It's good coin, and you get to read. Yes, you read. That's the fringe fact of the week. Witches are not all muscle and monster guts. You can quote 5 books on elder bloodlines, 2 on magical theory, and a really saucy poem about dryads and silk sheets. Not that you'll admit that part. Oxenfurt feels safe. Too safe. So when a red-eyed woman in a hood offers you a job outside the city, a job involving a cave, a cursed elf mirror, and a beast with too many legs, you say yes. Even though you shouldn't. The cave reeks of ozone and despair. The beast is real, and it doesn't like mirrors. You fight for hours, lose a few teeth, gain a few scars. You win in the end, but the mirror? It shows you something you're not ready to see. Yourself, but older, sadder, with eyes like hollow moons. You smash the mirror. The woman pays you in sapphires and disappears in a puff of lilac and goose feathers. You don't ask questions. Some jobs are like that. The less you know, the longer you live. You ride again. Roach stumbles on a trail near Novigrad, and you end up fixing her horseshoe in the rain. That's when the bard finds you. Lute slung over his back, grin wide as the ponter. Geralt of Rivia, he asks. Heard you once killed a noonwraith with a frying pan. You did, sort of. He introduces himself as Jaskier. He smells like wine and poor decisions. He insists on following you. For the ballads, he says. You try to shake him off for a week. He just keeps showing up, singing, loudly. Eventually, you accept your fate. At least he scares off Bandit. The two of you wander for a while, take contracts, get into bar fights, get kicked out of inns. Once, you wake up in a tree with a note pinned to your shirt that reads, "Never bet against dwarfs." You stop asking questions. You're beginning to understand something. Being a witcher isn't just about fighting monsters. It's about surviving people. The liars, the thieves, the nobles with rotten teeth and golden crowns. The peasants who want you to kill their problems but never look you in the eye. It's lonely work, but someone's got to do it. And if that someone has white hair, cat eyes, and a blade that sings when drawn, well, that just makes the story more interesting, doesn't it? You wake up to the sound of Jaskier snoring. He's sprawled half off his bedroll, clutching his lute like a lover he plans to serenade and dump in the same verse. You sigh, roll over, and watch the mist curl above the damp earth. Dawn isn't here yet, but the birds are rehearsing for it. You'd hoped for one morning without a hangover, not yours, his. But alas, his idea of bonding involves 5 tankards of elderberry mead and a drinking song about harpies that somehow includes interpretive dance. Still, it's oddly comforting, this routine. You've spent years chasing monsters and dodging curses, and now you're arguing over whether garlic keeps ghouls away. Spoiler, it doesn't, but it does keep barmaids at bay. This morning's contract is different. No rot fiends or grave hags. This time, it's a cursed nobleman. You ride to Caetiella, a cliffside estate with too many towers and not enough common sense. The lord greets you in a robe made of peacock feathers, which sets the tone. He's been seeing visions, he says, horrors in his halls, whispers in his sleep, tables moved, portraits scratched. You suspect a wraith, maybe even a cunning poltergeist, but your medallion stays still. No tremors, no pulses. That's your first clue something's off. You stay the night, dine at a long table with 6 chairs, though there's only the 2 of you. He talks to someone else halfway through the meal. You don't interrupt, you just observe. At midnight, the air shifts. You don't hear footsteps, you feel them. In the way the fire gutters, the way your breath curls colder than it should. You follow the sound to the library, where books have been stacked into a crude throne. And sitting atop it, not a ghost, not a ghoul, but the Lord himself, eyes glowing gold, muttering in elder speech. You recognize the signs. Possession, but not demonic, relational. Some cursed item has anchored a soul to him, likely a family heirloom with a grudge. You search the house. Nothing. Then you find the ring. It's in a sealed drawer. Black band, humming with energy, carved with a name, Isolde, the Lord's late wife. You don't break the curse with fire or sword. You talk. You sit in that grand hall and coax her spirit out. Not with spells, but with honesty, with memory, with grief. It takes hours, but in the end, she lets go. The Lord sobs for a long time. You leave without payment. Jaskier doesn't get it. You could have bought a fortress with that kind of work, but you don't need coin for everything. Sometimes it's about letting the dead rest and the living remember. Fringe tidbit for the night. Witches aren't trained in exorcisms, but they read about them. A lot. You once borrowed a tome from a priest and never returned it. Sorry, Reverend Bram. Back on the road, you stop in a town called Breck. You're barely off Roach when a young boy tugs your sleeve and says, "My sister's turned into a bird." You blink. "Excuse me." A big one. Wings, talons, poops on the roof. Jaskier is already writing lyrics. You investigate. The family is poor, kind, terrified. The girl, Lena, had gone into the woods to gather herbs. Came back mute and feathered. Her arms now stretch wide with pale plumage. She flits from rafter to rafter in the barn, eyes wide and distant. You consult your bestiary. It's not a curse. It's a lotion's mark. The girl trespassed near an ancient tree, and it left its touch on her, halfway between gift and punishment. She's not transforming into a bird. She's being claimed. You trek into the forest, find the tree. It bleeds when you touch it. The les hen rises that night, all bark and bone and fury. You fight, steel first, then silver, then fire. And just when it seems unstoppable, You whisper a name, Lena's, over and over. The beast stutters, wavers, and you drive your sword home. The forest falls silent. Lena sleeps for 3 days, then wakes featherless and dazed. The townsfolk call you a hero. Jaskia rhymes avian with barbarian. It's fine. You leave with a basket of sweetbread and an itch on your shoulder that definitely isn't from the leshen. Probably. You keep going. You learn that your reflexes are too sharp for tavern games. Cards snap, dice clatter, and people start accusing you of sorcery. Which is fair. Mainstream fact check. Witches don't use magic the way mags do. It's all signs, basic, focused burst. Igni for fire, Ard for blasts, Axi for mind tricks. But even basic can feel like cheating when you melt a beer mug with your pinky. You once tried to use Axi to get free ale. The barkeep ended up proposing marriage. You had to leave in the middle of the night, wearing someone else's trousers. That memory comes back when you pass through Virgin. It's a mining town with too many grudges and not enough soap. But someone's been stealing children, and they're desperate enough to welcome a mutant with a sword. You track the culprit to a cave system, narrow, damp, crawling with bats. You find the nest. Harpies. Not just any harpies, nanny harpies. An old, rare variant. They don't eat the kids, they adopt them. Badly. You don't kill them. You bargain. A trade. 2 goats, 3 dolls, and an enchanted lullaby stone you happen to have from a druid who owed you a favor. The harpies agree, return the children, and even braid your hair as thanks. Jaskia writes a ballad called The Witcher Who Negotiated Bedtime. You regret saving him every time he sings it. The road continues. You start noticing things, how the stars shift in different regions, how Roach prefers left turns over right, how your swords hum louder near certain ruins. You don't know what you're looking for yet, but it's out there, somewhere in the echo of steel on steel, in the trembling pulse of your medallion, in the silence that comes when the contract is done and all that's left is you, the dust, and the slow retreat of dawn. The summer haze rolls in thick and heavy, coating everything in sweat and bad tempers. You ride into a town called Dragrad, where even the trees seem annoyed. The notice boards a mess of faded parchment, missing sheep, cheating spouses, someone asking if they left a pie on the windowsill or if it's been stolen again. But your eye snags on a job post with no reward listed. Just, please help. Something wrong with the mirrors. You follow the address to a crooked cottage at the edge of the woods. A widow opens the door. Her hair is wild, eyes hollow from sleep lost to watching reflections misbehave. She explains that every night, after sundown, her mirrors change. They show her house, yes, but not as it is. Things shift, details blur. Sometimes a chair is missing. Sometimes she sees herself smiling when she isn't. It's not a Doppler. You checked for scent. Not an illusion either. Your medallion twitches just slightly when she mentions a name. Gaunter. You pause. You haven't heard that name in years. Gaunter Odim, the man of glass. You encountered him once, briefly. He offered you soup. You said no. He smiled like someone who already owned your bones. You smash every mirror in the house. Not heroic, just practical. But one refuses to break. You stare into it, and it stares back, literally. The version of you inside doesn't blink when you do. It lifts a hand, slowly, and you feel your own twitch as if pulled by string. You use Quen and shove it from the wall. The glass shatters. The magic ends. Later that night, you bury the shards under salt and dimeritium dust. Classic warding trick. Not in the manuals. You picked it up from an old Nilfgaardian hedge mage with 3 teeth and a fondness for smoked trout. The widow weeps with relief. You don't tell her who was behind it. Some things are safer left unsaid. Back on the trail, Jaskia's composing again. He's written a verse about reflections that flirt. You throw a boot at him. He catches it, strums a chord, and says it adds a percussive texture. You start walking faster. The next town has a troll problem. Classic, straightforward. Or so you think. You find the troll under a bridge, as expected. What you don't expect is that it's charging tolls in riddles. Answer or swim, it grunts, cracking its knuckles. Jaskia's delighted. Oh, this is divine. You're less amused. The riddles are weird. What walks on 4 legs in the morning? No, not that one. This troll's riddles are about tavern pricing logic and obscure dwarven proverbs. You get the first one wrong. You end up in the river. Jaskia laughs so hard he forgets to rhyme for a full minute. Second try, you make a deal. If you win 3 riddles, the troll leaves. If not, you give him your boots. The third riddle. I am always hungry. I must always be fed. The finger I touch will soon turn red. You mutter, fire, and he groans, disappointed. He honors the deal, packs his things, a surprisingly well-stitched duffel, and trundles off muttering about retirement and how riddles used to mean something. Later, Jaskia sells the story as a comedic monologue. You're never invited to the performance. You consider that a blessing. Mainstream witcher fact, while most witches carry 2 swords, silver for monsters, steel for men, you actually own a third. It's wooden, a training sword, for kids, mostly, but once, you used it to disarm a drunk baron without drawing blood. It hurt more than steel, actually. The baron wept. Fringe fact, some witcher schools trained in riddle games and logic puzzles. Mental agility as important as reflexes. The School of the Crane even had written exams. You skipped yours. You had a contract to fulfill. Also, you hate exams. That night, as you and Jaskia camp under a sky smeared with stars, you find yourself humming. He notices. He doesn't say anything. Just lets it happen. The next day, you're ambushed. Not by monsters. Not even mercenaries. By kids. 5 of them, no taller than your waist, holding sticks like swords and wearing pot lids as helmets. Geralt of Rivia, the leader cries, freckled and brave. You're under arrest for crimes against bedtime. You freeze. You look around. Jaskia's in tears. He lives for this kind of thing. The kids charge. You drop your sword, gently, raise your hands, and play along. It turns into a game. You let them fight you. Take a dive when one gets a particularly enthusiastic swing to your shin. You dramatically collapse into a pile of leaves. Their laughter echoes like bells. Turns out, they know you from Bard's Tales. You're a legend, a bedtime boogeyman and a bedtime hero rolled into one. They even have a chant about your white hair and cat eyes that see through lies. You let them win, and when their parents call them home, you give them each a coin. Not real ones, tokens etched with protective runes. You have a stash just for things like this. Found them in a sunken ruin near Sintra. Kids gone, Jaskia whistles. Didn't know you had it in you. You shrug. They didn't stab me. I'm calling it a win. You travel for 2 more days without work. Then you get a letter, folded tight, no name, sealed with green wax. Inside, she's back. You'll know where to go. You do. Kaer Morhen, the stronghold. Home, but not of warmth, not of laughter. Home of steel, scars, and ghosts. You don't rush. You never do. But your heart beats a little faster as the mountains rise. Because if she's back, then your past is, too. The mountain paths twist like old memories, worn, weathered, and a little sharper than you remember. Snow clings to the rocks despite summer clawing at the rest of the world. Kaer Morhen rises from the peaks, stone shoulders hunched against the sky. You've seen it 1,000 times. It still feels like walking into a dream you never quite finish. The keep's gates creak open before you knock. She's waiting inside. Yennefer, of Vengerberg, of storms and lilac and gooseberry, of headaches and kisses and conversations that end in fire. She leans against a wall like she owns the stones, and maybe she does. Your heart plays a brief drum solo in your chest. She smirks. You scowl. Balance is restored. About time, she says. You summoned me, you reply. Did I? She muses, walking past. I forget. You're so forgettable. You both know it's a lie. You follow her in silence, boots echoing through the cold halls. The smell of dust, sweat, and alchemical oil lingers like a second skin. You're home, but only because there's nowhere else left. She brings you to the lower crypts. You hate the crypts, but she's already talking. There's something in the walls, she says. Something old. Older than even this place. You arch a brow. That's not encouraging. Voices, she adds, coming from the stone, whispering in elder speech. I've tried to trace them, but they're slippery. Like smoke through cloth. You spend the night in your old quarters. The bed creaks like an old man's knees. You clean your blades, check your potions, try not to think about how Yennefer smelled when she brushed past you. You fail. In the morning, you go into the walls. Literally. There's a breach in the cellar, a long-forgotten tunnel half-collapsed, its entrance hidden behind crates of spoiled mandrake root. Vesemir would be furious, or proud. It's hard to tell with him. You descend with a torch and your silver sword. The tunnel curves downward, steep and strange, too smooth for anything made by witcher hands. About 30 feet in, the voices start. Whispers in elder speech, yes, but also other tongues. Languages you haven't heard since you were a child. A lullaby your mother sang. A hymn the druids in Stylized chant at funerals. You feel your medallion vibrate so hard it stings. Then you see it. A mirror. Not just any mirror. This one breathes. It pulses faintly, its surface rippling like liquid trapped in glass. And reflected in it is not you. Not entirely. It's a version of you, yes, but with yellow glowing eyes. Not cat-like, but burning. The armor is wrong. Sleek, black, marked with runes you don't recognize. And his sword is already drawn. You blink. So does he. But 1 second too late. You draw your blade. The mirror flashes. Nothing attacks. Instead, a voice hums from the walls. White wolf, false fang. You're running out of endings. You back away. Back up the tunnel. Back into Yennefer's annoyed expression. What did you find? She asked. You answer with a sigh. A mirror. Another one, she says, exasperated. I told you to stop collecting those. You both sit in the war room. She pours wine. You don't drink. She talks about threads, how magic sometimes leaves trails, how mirrors can be doorways or prisons, depending on who forged them. You mention Gaunter Odim. She freezes, just for a second. But it's there. He doesn't do loose ends, she mutters. If he's leaving breadcrumbs, it's because he wants you to bake the damn loaf. That night, you walk the walls. Kaer Morhen never sleeps. It dozes, half alert, like a retired predator. You remember your first winter here, shivering, angry, bleeding from the eyes because the trial of grasses turned your body inside out. Not everyone made it. You did. Barely. You walk past Eskel's old room. Still smells like pine tar and regret. Lambert's bunk, empty except for a single glove, left as a joke. You never returned it. Some things are better left lost. Down the hall, you hear laughter. Yennefer, alone, reading something, probably mocking your journal. You always suspected she stole it once. You don't disturb her. Instead, you go back to the courtyard. The moon is a sliver of silver, high and cruel. You draw your sword and run through the old drills. Fast steps, precise swings, footwork that's more dance than fight. You're older now, slower, maybe, but smarter. Mostly. Mainstream Witcher fact, the trial of the grasses, the mutation that gives you your enhanced reflexes, eyes, and metabolism, kills 7 out of 10 children who attempt it. You survived with all your teeth and just a few psychological scars. Fringe tidbit. Before Kaer Morhen fell to sacking, there was a cat that lived in the kitchen tower. No one fed it, but it never left. Some said it was a mage's familiar. Others said it was a witcher who failed the trial and got reassigned. You always brought it fish. It never liked you. As dawn creeps across the mountains, you feel something shift. Not outside. In you. Something's been set in motion. A thread pulled, a mirror cracked. Yennefer finds you still awake. She doesn't speak, just stands beside you. Her fingers brush yours. You don't pull away. Because if she's here, then the worst is yet to come. And you won't face it alone. It begins with a raven. A single, jet-black bird perched on the frost-bitten sill of the old observatory tower. Its eyes are the color of dried blood, and its beak doesn't move, but it speaks. You've been chosen. No hello, no good morning. Just that grim little note dropped into the still air like a curse. You don't bother drawing a weapon. Ravens don't usually require swordplay. Yennefer arrives seconds later. It's him, isn't it? She asks, already pulling runes from the folds of her cloak. You nod. She flings a spell at the raven. Violet arcs, sparks of pure will. The bird bursts into petals. Lilac petals. Yennefer looks genuinely spooked for the first time since she watched you try to make breakfast that one time with no pants on. You really pissed off something this time, she says. You always do. But she's probably right. That day, you and Yen pore over tomes in Kaer Morhen's library, a room that smells like mold and burnt toast. Blame Lambert. Long story. You scan a parchment older than Redania's borders, and then you find it. An obscure passage scrawled sideways in Elder speech, talking about the Mirror Path, a forgotten branch of chaos magic where mirrors aren't just reflective, they're predictive, prophetic, but the more you use them, the more they use you. Apparently, some sorcerers tried mapping the mirror timeline. Every single one went mad. Yennefer mutters something about linear timelines being a scam, which is not comforting. Do you remember the conjunction? She asks suddenly. You mean the ancient cataclysm that smashed all the dimensions together like a toddler with Legos, you say. Vaguely. She explains that remnants of that time, artifacts, spaces, rules, still linger. That mirror could be one of them, a leftover doorway. Or worse, a key. And you touched it, she adds, narrowing her eyes. I looked at it. You grumble. With your soul, apparently. You laugh once, dry and sharp. You always say I'm soulless. She grins. Not to your face. The next clue arrives via owl. Tiny scroll. Royal seal. Dandelion. Of course. You open the note. Geralt, old friend, something's wrong with time. That's it. That's the note. No location, no signature. Just that unhelpfully vague haiku. Typical bard behavior. You and Yennefer depart Kaer Morhen by noon. She portals you most of the way, but there's a storm swirling around Novigrad that won't let her land safely. So, walking it is. Your boots squelch through early autumn mud, the wind slicing through your cloak like angry whispers. You pass a merchant whose cart is full of broken hourglasses. He looks at you like he knows your birthday. You do not like that. Mainstream Witcher fact, portals are unstable when cast too close to magical interference, especially chaos-based anomalies. Which, spoiler, you are now carrying like a pocket nuke. Fringe tidbit, Dandelion once tried to open a portal using only a lute cord, a rhyme, and a chicken bone. He ended up inside a pickle barrel in Mahakam for 3 days. Still claims it was a success. Eventually, you reach Oxenfurt, but the gates are gone. Not destroyed, just missing. As if they were erased from existence. The guards stand in perfect rows, unmoving. Statues? No. Breathing. Awake. Just stuck. Time stasis, Yen mutters. It's spreading. You step through the invisible wall like parting a curtain of cobwebs. Inside, the town is locked in 1,000 still frames. A girl chasing a dog that never turns. A baker whose dough hovers in the air like a balloon. A man mid-fall, forever almost hurt. In the middle of the square stands Dandelion, completely unaffected, because of course, his pacing in front of a broken fountain, muttering to himself, oblivious to the temporal freeze. When he sees you, he nearly weeps. Geralt, by the balls of the eternal fire, you're late. You glance around at a city that hasn't moved in hours. Technically, I'm early. Dandelion explains, using more adjectives than necessary, that has been watching things unravel for days. Time loops, sudden aging, birds flying backward, a gnome that sneezed himself into a different century. And always, the mirrors. I broke one, he admits. In the opera house. You stare at him. Why? He shrugs. It told me I was going to die bald. Yennefer groans audibly. Still, he's not lying. Something here is unraveling threads that shouldn't be touched. A mirror is at the center of it. And worst of all, it's not alone. There are 7 mirrors like the one at Kaer Morhen. Ancient, hidden across the continent. And they're waking up. You ask Dandelion how he knows. He pulls a map out of his boot. Because this one lit up last night. He taps a glowing mark in Sintra. Fantastic. You remember Sintra as a ruin. A memory. A place scorched by Nilfgaard and haunted by ghosts, both literal and figurative. You weren't planning on going back. But plans are for people with peace in their lives. You are not those people. Night falls. You and Yennefer hole up in an abandoned inn. The clocks tick normally inside. She wards the windows. Dandelion raids the wine cellar. You sharpen your blades. Quiet, focused. She sits near you, watching. You okay? She asks, not softly. No. Good. Me neither. There's comfort in that. You both know it won't last. That night, you dream of mirrors. They stretch across an infinite field of black water. And each one shows you something different. Geralt as a child, crying. Geralt laughing. Geralt old, dying in bed. Geralt ruling. Geralt burning. The last one shows nothing. Just a black void. And in that void, a voice. White wolf, false fang. Your thread unravels. You wake with a gasp. The mirror in the corner of the inn is cracked. Yennefer's already up, watching you. We leave at dawn, she says. You don't argue. You just nod. Because whatever waits in Sintra, it's already seen you coming. Sintra. Even the name feels heavy in your mouth, like ash or old regret. You ride through the valley under a cloud-choked sky, where the grass seems to whisper sideways and the trees bend just a little too far, like they're eavesdropping. Yennefer says nothing. Dandelion hums quietly to himself, something minor key and off-tempo, like a lullaby hummed backward. The ruins of the capital rise in the distance. What once stood proud is now shattered stone, leaning walls, scorched timbers. But not dead. No, Sintra breathes, just differently now, and not always in chronological order. The moment you cross the threshold of the outer wall, the world flickers. Your horse stumbles, then vanishes. You're standing in the same spot, but it's 5 hours earlier, or 2 weeks later. You smell lilac and gooseberries, then smoke, then fresh-baked bread, then nothing. Yennefer curses. This place isn't stitched. She's right. Time here doesn't flow. It loops, snags, rewinds like a broken reel. The only thing that remains constant is the ruined castle, still looming like a cracked crown on the hill. That's where the mirror has to be. Mainstream Witcher fact: Sintra was destroyed during the Nilfgaardian invasion, leaving behind scars that even magic couldn't quite close. Fringe tidbit: during that invasion, one of Queen Calanthe's court mags allegedly tried to stop time in the throne room to delay the army. He succeeded, for 3 seconds. Those seconds have been repeating ever since in the bones of the palace. No one who's walked into that room has ever heard silence since. You reach the palace steps. Moss clings to the stone like forgotten prayers. Yennefer warns you, magic's thick here. Don't touch anything that smiles. Solid advice. Inside, it's colder. Not because of wind, but because the space itself seems to recoil from you. Portraits stare, rugs ripple, time stutters. You step forward and see yourself stepping back. Dandelion throws up. The grand hall greets you like a cathedral without faith. Broken windows, shattered glass, ivy crawling in from wounds in the ceiling. In the center, a mirror, 7 feet tall, iron frame, no dust, no cracks, just an impossible, perfect reflection. And it's not showing the room. It's showing a throne, occupied by you. But you're smiling in that reflection. A kind of smug, cruel smirk you've never worn. Not even on that one weird job in Toussaint with the singing frogs. Is it reacting to me? You ask. Yennefer steps closer, eyes glowing. No, it's reacting to what you could be. That version of you raises a goblet, drinks. A scream erupts behind you. You spin around, sword drawn, and find a child. 8, 9, help, she whispers. She's bleeding from the eyes. Before you can move, the girl crumbles like sand, and time whips backward, resetting the moment. You watch her die again, and again, and again. Trap, Yennefer mutters. Temporal bait, meant to wear you down emotionally until the mirror can imprint. Dandelion backs away, already reaching for his boot map. So maybe we don't need this mirror after all. You ignore him. You approach. The reflection shifts again. This time, it's not you. It's Ciri. She's standing in a snowstorm, calling your name, barefoot and shivering. Her lips move, but the sound is a distant roar, like a wave breaking across your heart. Yen grabs your wrist. Don't touch the glass, she says through clenched teeth. You hadn't realized your hand was raised. You weren't planning to touch it. At least, not consciously. But that's the mirror's trick. It doesn't control you. It simply presents a version of reality where you already agreed. You step back. The spell breaks, just slightly. Cracks spread across the mirror like ice underfoot. And from those cracks leak voices. Your voice, but not yours. Different accents. Different regrets. I should have saved her. I should have killed her. I should have run. A cacophony of could-have-beens. You draw your silver sword. Geralt, don't, Yennefer warns. But you already know. This isn't a thing to be reasoned with. This is a thing to be ended. You swing. The moment the blade touches glass, time explodes. You're falling, not down, but inward. Through scenes of your life, folding like paper. Kaer Morhen. The Trial of the Grasses. A botched haircut in Novigrad. Your first kiss. Your first kill. Vesemir's hand on your shoulder. Ciri's laughter. Roach beneath you. Then nothing. Silence. You're standing in the forest again. The same one from the first mirror. Only now it's full of reflections. Hundreds of them. Every tree trunk shows a different you. Dead. Alive. Glorious. Forgotten. You fall to your knees. And then you hear it. Not a voice. A whisper. Collect them all. Be whole. You blink. Back in the palace. The mirror is gone. Shattered into dust. The air tastes of static and burnt honey. Yennefer crouches beside you. That was one of the 7. The weakest, maybe. You look at your hands. They're shaking. You don't say it aloud, but you know, if that was the weakest. Dandelion speaks, quiet for once. The map's changed. You peer over his shoulder. A new mark is glowing. Far south, in the Karath Desert. Fun, you mutter. Yen stands. 1 down, 6 to go. You try not to think about what happens when you find the last one. Or worse, when it finds you. You dream of sand before you see it. Granular whispers slipping through your fingers. Dunes folding like skin. Heat that hums instead of burns. The Karath Desert isn't just dry. It's dead in a way that feels personal. Like it took your presence as an insult and is now plotting revenge. You wake up with a mouthful of grit and Dandelion singing a limerick about heatstroke. Yennefer conjures a shade dome with a flick of her fingers. muttering about how teleportation is overrated and how she definitely didn't miss the mark by 100 leagues. You don't argue. You're too busy listening. Because the wind here doesn't whistle, it giggles. And it's not funny. Mainstream Witcher fact: the Karath Desert is known as the frying pan of the continent, so arid and unforgiving that even monsters refuse to breed here. Some scholars think the land was cursed, others blame a magical cataclysm. All agree you shouldn't visit. Fringe tidbit: buried beneath the sand are the remains of an ancient elven observatory where mags once tried to listen to stars. It didn't end well, but the dome they built, still mostly intact. Mostly. That dome is exactly where the second mirror hides. You trudge through the shifting dunes for hours, or possibly days. Time gets weird here. You swear you walk past the same half-buried skull 3 times. Dandelion insists it winked at him the second time. The observatory finally appears at dusk, rising like a hallucination. Black glass and sun-bleached bone, half swallowed by a dune. It hums faintly, like a deep cello note plucked by a giant. Inside, the air is cooler but heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. You find the mirror in what used to be the central scrying chamber. Suspended mid-air, spinning slowly, edge glowing like embers under skin. Unlike the first, this one doesn't show you yourself. It shows the sky. Not the one above your head, the one from a different night, a different world. You reach out without touching. Stars bend. The constellations are wrong. The moon is broken. And you realize, this mirror doesn't reflect you. It reflects your absence. What is this, you ask? Yennefer doesn't answer. Dandelion's staring too, pale-faced, for once with no song ready. The chamber shifts. The mirror pulses. Suddenly, you're alone. Not in the chamber. Alone in the world. No footprints but yours. No sounds but your breath. You call their names. Nothing answers. You walk outside, only to find there is no outside. Just glass. You're inside the mirror now. The Karath version of it. You walk for what feels like days, until you find her. Not Yen. Not Ciri. Your mother. She sits by a campfire that doesn't burn, wearing robes that flicker between colors. You haven't seen her since Kaer Morhen. Since before. She looks up. You're late. Your mouth is dry. This isn't real. She chuckles. Neither is your memory of me. And that's the trick, isn't it? This mirror doesn't tempt you with glory or regret. It holds up a version of the world where you were never taken. Where you grew up. Where your name wasn't Geralt. Where the trial of the grasses never bled your eyes white. You sit, because what else can you do? She feeds you imaginary stew, tells you stories of the life you never had, mentions a dog you never owned, a sister who never existed. And yet, you can feel her. The warmth of the fire, the quiet of safety. You're not supposed to want this, but you do. Then you feel it, just under your ribs. A tug. Gentle at first, reality calling. You stand. This is wrong. She looks up, sad now. But it's kind. You nod. And you walk away. With every step, the sand grows colder, until it becomes stone. And you're back. The mirror is gone again. Just a circle of scorched air where it spun. Yennefer is furious. You were gone for 6 seconds. What did it show you? You don't answer. Dandelion watches you closely. You saw someone, didn't you? You nod. And then the worst part, Yennefer says nothing. Because she saw someone too. A part of her hasn't come back. Not entirely. The map shifts again. This time, the marker glows deep in the swamps of Angren. A place that never forgets. You don't sleep that night. Even the stars look unfamiliar. Angren smells like rot and secrets. You cross into the swamp just before dawn. The mist so thick it tastes like old teeth and vinegar. Birds don't sing here. They mutter, clicking and rasping like broken clockwork. Trees lean over the path like old men trying to whisper something gross in your ear. And the mud? The mud wants you. Every step is a negotiation. You press your boots down gently, test the suction, pray you won't lose another to the sucking glee of the muck below. Somewhere behind you, Dandelion has wrapped silk around his calves to avoid ankle shame, whatever that means. Yennefer's boots don't even touch the ground. Show off. Mainstream Witcher fact: Angren was once a vibrant elven region, filled with sun-dappled groves and gentle streams. After the conjunction of the spheres and the Nilfgaardian incursions, it became a cursed mire where vegetation digests the living and undead whisper lullabies in the reeds. Fringe tidbit: there's an old legend about a leshen here that didn't feed on blood or bone, but on memories. It would lure travelers into its den and strip away everything they knew about themselves, leaving them polite, vacant, and very eager to sell you mushrooms. You follow the glowing pulse on the map to a forgotten village half-swallowed by moss and despair. Stone walls crumble into puddles. Doors creak open like they're sighing. The mirror is rumored to be buried beneath the well in the town square. Yep, the one with the creepy doll sitting on its lip. Of course there's a doll. You fish it out first, because you're brave but not stupid. Turns out it's stuffed with mushroom spores. Great. Now you're coughing and hallucinating mildly. Yennefer looks like she's wearing a top hat and speaking French. Dandelion is suddenly 8 feet tall and giving a TED talk on bread knives. The hallucination passes, but something lingers. A word, maybe, or a sound. You climb down the well. It isn't a well. It's a mouth. The tunnel curves inward like a throat. Ribs of root and fungus line the path. Everything squelches. You can't see the sky anymore, just pulsing amber veins across the walls. Then you hear it, your own voice, but not quite. Softer. Unsure. You find the third mirror inside what looks like a massive fungal bloom. A flower made of meat and light, its petals twitching. The mirror is suspended between 2 stone jaws, like a tongue caught mid-confession. This one's different. It doesn't show your face. It speaks. And you listen. You could have been a healer, it says. You blink. What? You had the hands for it, the voice continues. It's yours, but younger. Less sandpaper, more velvet. Before they turned them into weapons. You scoff, but your fingers ache at the compliment. You remember your first suture, stitching a merchant's shoulder closed with trembling hands, praying not to puncture a lung. The mirror murmurs again. Do you regret it? You don't answer. Because the truth is, sometimes you do. Sometimes you wonder what might have grown in place of scars. You reach for the mirror. Your hand sinks in. No reflection. Just a sensation. You feel every wound you've ever dealt. Not received, given. You see the man who begged for mercy but drew on you anyway. The bandit you crippled because it was easier than killing him. The manticore cub you orphaned without knowing. They're all here. They don't scream. They watch. And they forgive you. You don't know why, but they do. The mirror pulses, then goes dark. It crumbles into soil. You find yourself back at the well's edge. Yennefer's leaning over, looking worried. You were down there for almost an hour. Felt like longer. You rasp. Dandelion hands you a flask. You hope it's water. It's mead. That'll do. As you leave the village, the doll on the well lifts its head and waves. You don't look back. The final mirror's pulse flares on the map. Kaer Morhen. You say nothing. Yennefer says less. Dandelion hums a song about home and tries to make it sound like a joke. It isn't. That night, you dream of frost, of children screaming, of swords drawn in a circle, and a wolf's howl that sounds like it's calling your name. You arrive at Kaer Morhen under a sky as grey as the keep's own bones. The old fortress hunches against the mountain, half swallowed by snow, half held together by stubbornness. The wind doesn't whistle here, it complains. Every gust sounds like it's filing a grievance with the gods. Inside, the stones remember your footsteps. They echo before you even step. You nod to no one, because no one's left. Maybe a mouse or two, Maybe the memory of Vesemir scraping stew off the bottom of a pot and scowling when you snuck seconds. You follow the mirror's pulse down through forgotten halls. Not the main library, not the training yard. Deeper, past the cellar where Eskel once passed out hugging a barrel. Past Lambert's secret stash of spiced pear liquor. Down into a crypt that no one ever spoke of but everyone somehow knew. Mainstream Witcher fact, Kaer Morhen was not just a fortress, it was a school, a forge, a grave. Of the 23 boys in your trial group, only 4 walked out. You, Eskel, Lambert, and one who didn't keep his mind. Fringe tidbit, there's a theory that the keep is sentient. Not haunted, not cursed, just aware. Some witches claimed Kaer Morhen's side when they cried. Others said it locked doors to keep them from doing something stupid. You believe it. You once found a sword you didn't remember losing, lying exactly where you'd need it most. The final mirror sits inside a sarcophagus of stone and frost. It has no frame, just ice, thick, immovable, covered in frost-laced sigils that burn faint blue when you speak your name. And the mirror? It shows nothing at all. No face, no reflection. Not until you press your palm against it, and then only darkness. You lean closer. The glass exhales, and you're inside. This world is wrong. The snow falls upward. Trees grow in reverse, their roots dangling from the sky. Wolves walk on hind legs and read poetry aloud. One of them sounds like dandelion. You stand in a Kaer Morhen that never fell. There are voices in the courtyard. Children, laughing, chasing each other through the stones with sticks for swords. You recognize one of them. You. Not long after the trials. Hair gone, eyes yellow, but still, joy. You try to speak. He can't hear you. None of them can. Then you see him. Vesemir. Alive. Younger. Not by much, but enough to laugh with his belly instead of his eyes. He calls out, Geralt. Enough of that running. Grab a mop before the floor eats itself again. Even here, you sigh. But you turn and follow his voice. You walk the halls of a life that could have been. You see Eskel, unscarred, still growing his beard. He's teaching a younger kid how to block with a wooden spoon. Lambert's nearby, making jokes about flamboyant defense techniques and probably about to get whacked. They're happy. You walk through this dream with dread in your throat. Because you know it's a trap. You just don't know whose. You reach the great hall. There's a table, set for supper. And seated around it, are you. But different. 15 versions. All Geralt. All not you. One is in gleaming armor, polished and smug. One has no swords, just scrolls, ink-stained fingers, and a knowing smile. One's older, much older. A white beard down to his chest, eyes like melted candle wax. And one's missing an arm and has Yennefer's medallion around his neck. They all look up when you arrive. None of them speak. You sit. No one eats. The mirror watches from above. Finally, one of you stands. The one with the scrolls. He says, we are all you, and none of us. Another chimes in. Each one made a different choice, took a different job, loved a different woman, saved a different friend. You look at the one with the missing arm. He nods, slow. The medallion hums. And then the older you speaks. You were never meant to be just a killer. You stare. He continues. But you were also never meant to be just one man. You are possibility, regret, sacrifice. The mirror cracks. You feel it behind your eyes. You gave up peace for purpose, someone says. You gave up love for loyalty, another adds. You gave up yourself for everyone else. They all speak now. You chose. You chose. You chose. The words swell until they're a wave, crashing against your ribs. You shout, so what now? And they fall silent, until one, the youngest, the boy still with laughter behind his eyes, says gently, now you forgive yourself. The mirror burst. You're back, in the crypt, alone. The frost has melted. The sigils are gone. The mirror is just a puddle. Yennefer stands at the doorway. She says nothing, just holds out her hand. You take it. Outside, Kaer Morhen creaks. You swear it's a sigh. You don't speak of the mirror as you descend the mountain. Yennefer doesn't ask. She's been in your mind before, knows which wounds are slow to scab. Instead, you ride together in a silence that's comfortable like old boots, worn, weathered, and not worth fixing. Roach picks her way along the icy path, careful and deliberate, like even she knows something has shifted in you. Not broken, not healed, just shifted. And maybe that's enough. You descend into the valley below, where the trees grow thick and the sky stops pretending it's angry. It's here you get the message. Not by bird or courier, but by dream. Mainstream Witcher fact: witches are resistant to magic, but not immune. Especially not when the magic is older than stone, older than stars. The kind that speaks in visions and wakes you with the taste of someone else's sorrow in your mouth. Fringe tidbit: some say the wild hunt doesn't ride every night. They sleep, waiting in other people's dreams, stealing warmth and memory like bedbugs. Charming guests, really. This dream, though, isn't theirs. You're standing on the edge of the world. Not metaphorically, like literal edge. Beyond your toes, a black abyss, deep as thought, wide as possibility. And across from you stands a woman in red. She says nothing, just smiles. Not kind, not cruel, just knowing. Her dress flutters despite the absence of wind. Her feet don't touch the ground. Her eyes are gold, not like yours. Yours are a mutation. Hers are a choice. She raises one finger and draws a circle in the air. A portal blooms, and from it steps a child. Small, maybe 10, hair white like yours, eyes gold. She looks up at you, and calls you father. You wake with blood in your nose and frost on your brow. Yennefer is already awake. Her eyes tell you she saw the same dream. But again, neither of you speaks. The road becomes sand beneath Roach's hooves. You're headed south, toward the coast, toward someone who owes you too many favors to ignore your knocking. You find Dandelion at a coastal villa pretending not to be Dandelion. He answers the door in an apron, flower on his cheek, and says, "Geralt, what an unpleasant surprise. I assume someone needs saving, stabbing, or serenading." You nod. He sighs. "Very well. Let me just ruin this bread I wasn't actually baking." He invites you in, Yennefer behind you. The three of you haven't shared a roof since that incident with the cursed troubadour and the sentient ukulele. You still wake up humming that stupid tune. Over wine, and by wine, Dandelion means the last bottle he didn't already drink. You tell him about the mirrors, the other Geralt, the child in red, the hunt, all of it. He listens, actually listens. Then, for once, doesn't make a joke. "That's not prophecy," he finally says. "That's warning." You glance at Yennefer. Her silence is permission. Dandelion stands and begins rummaging through drawers. Behind a shelf of love poems and a sketch of himself kissing himself, he finds a map. It's not paper. It's leather. Old. Smells like dragon sweat and goat cheese. "This," he says, "was given to me by a man who claimed to be a time traveler. Or possibly a liar. But he had an honest face. You know, the kind that screams, 'Trust me. I'm definitely not about to sell your organs.'" He unfolds the map. On it, a place not found on any chart. A space between spaces. Not on land. Not sea. Not sky. You read the name aloud. The Hollow Crossroads. Yennefer frowns. A myth. Dandelion grins. "Well, sure. So are we, apparently." The crossroads is where all stories meet. The place where every possible path passes, for a moment, through the same dust. You'll find answers there. Maybe even her, the girl in red, the child. The journey is neither long nor short. Time folds strangely now. You blink, and suddenly you're walking through fog thicker than stew. The air smells like thunder. The ground hums like a plucked string. You step into the crossroads. It's not a place. It's every place. Mountains, cities, forests, deserts. All shifting like a slow kaleidoscope. You stand at a signpost that has no signs, and from the mist, figures emerge. Not enemies, not allies, versions of you. Again, but these are older, faded, echoes. One limps, his sword arm missing. Another wears priest's robes, eyes hollow with peace. One has no medallion, no path, just tired hands and a long, slow breath. They look at you. Then, at the center of the crossroads, a doorway, made of mirror, fractured, bleeding light. This is the last one. You nod, step forward, and a voice calls after you. Geralt. You turn. The priest version raises a hand. You may not be the best of us, but you were always the most stubborn. You grin. Some things are consistent. You pass through the mirror. And this time, she's waiting. The girl. Red dress, gold eyes, small hands. She says, "Do you know my name?" You don't. You try, but it won't come. She steps closer. You don't have to. She holds your hand. And suddenly, you're not afraid. Because this child, whatever she is, whatever you've made or will make, knows you, and still reaches for you. The final trial is not a beast, not a blade. It's this, to be seen, entirely, and loved, anyway. You wake slower this time, the aftertaste of the crossroads clinging like damp wool on your skin. Yennefer is already packing, her fingers moving quickly, silently, a contrast to your own sluggish limbs. The girl with the gold eyes, the one you saw beyond the fractured mirror, still lingers in your mind like a song you almost remember but can't quite hum. You slide into your boots and saddle Roach, your mind looping over every detail of that place. The crossroads wasn't just a location, it was a convergence of possibilities and choices. You could feel it humming beneath your feet, an electric pulse of what was, what could be, and what might never happen. Mainstream Witcher fact: witches have cat-like eyes adapted for night vision, a mutation from the Trial of Grasses. But what few people realize is that this mutation doesn't just grant sight, it also makes you see subtle shifts in the world, like flickers in the fabric of reality. Fringe tidbit: some of your fellow witches believe that those who've seen the crossroads and returned carry a kind of second sight, an uncanny intuition that borders on madness. You're not sure if you believe that, or maybe you don't want to. The road takes you to the edge of the swampy marshlands, where the air tastes of decay and damp moss. You're hunting a bruiser, vampire queen, rumored to be terrorizing the villages nearby. The bruiser is no stranger to you, but this one is cunning, more than the usual, and something about her reminds you of the girl in red, as if the darkness they both carry is woven from the same thread. You enter the village under the heavy weight of dusk. Lanterns flicker behind frosted windows, and children hide beneath blankets as if the night could swallow them whole. A familiar unease settles in your chest. You've been in places like this before, where hope is a fragile thing, and fear tastes like stale bread. Dandelion's voice echoes in your memory. Stories aren't always about monsters, Geralt. Sometimes the real monsters are just people afraid to be brave. You trace the bruiser's trail to an abandoned chapel, its once sacred stones blackened and cracked. The scent of burned incense and something darker lingers. You draw your silver sword, the one you call Moonlight's Bite, and step inside. Inside, shadows twist and curl like smoke. You hear a soft voice, almost a whisper. It's the bruiser, but this time her tone is not cruel, more like a warning. Beware the child of mirrors, she hisses, for she carries the fate of all who walk the paths between. You steady your breath and strike. The battle is swift but fierce, steel against claws, light against shadow. When the dust settles, you stand alone, sword dripping, heart pounding. You know this fight is just a fragment of a much larger story. Outside, the village seems a little quieter, as if the night itself has taken a breath. Yennefer joins you, eyes sharp and knowing. You're chasing ghosts, she says, but maybe the ghosts are chasing you. You look at her, tired but unbroken. She smirks. Come on, let's find that child. Before the hunt does. You mount Roach, and the three of you vanish into the night. The sun barely rises before you're back on the trail, the cold air biting through your cloak like a restless wolf. Roach's hooves pound a steady rhythm against the frozen earth, echoing the relentless beat of your thoughts. The child with gold eyes haunts your every step, an enigma folded into your destiny like a secret letter waiting to be read. You and Yennefer navigate through dense pine forests, the branches whispering secrets only the wind understands. The magic in the air hums faintly, tangled with the earthy scent of pine resin and damp soil. It's an odd comfort, like the world is breathing beneath your feet, steady and alive. Mainstream Witcher fact: you recall that witches' signs, simple hand gestures that unleash magic, are mostly subtle spells born from intense training, not innate powers. The Quen sign, for instance, can shield you from harm, a protective bubble of magical energy. Handy when things get ugly, which is often. Fringe tidbit: some elder witches whisper that the magic of the signs can interact differently with various timelines and realities, like a cosmic tuning fork. You chuckle at the thought, imagining a Geralt in an alternate universe accidentally summoning a disco ball instead of a shield. Probably not that different from some of your real-life mishaps. You pause by a clearing where the sunlight fractures through the canopy, scattering golden shards on the ground. The silence breaks with a soft cry, faint and almost childlike. Your heart tightens, a familiar tug that tells you you're close. Yennefer's eyes narrow, searching the shadows. Then, from the underbrush, she steps forward, a girl. Not much older than the child from your vision, but alive, real, and trembling. Her eyes gleam with that impossible gold hue. She looks at you without fear. Who are you? You ask, voice rough from sleepless nights and too many battles. She answers, I'm the echo, the possibility, the child born of mirrors and choices. You kneel, reaching out a hand, but she hesitates, then touches your palm with a tentative trust. You're not just a witcher, she says softly. You're a guardian of paths that weren't meant to cross. You realize then that the hunt's pursuit wasn't just about destruction, it was about control. About preventing futures from branching where they should. Yennefer's voice comes steady behind you. We don't have much time. The hunt will come for her soon. But she carries the hope of many worlds. You look at the girl again, her small frame seeming both fragile and fierce. And you understand, this isn't just about survival. It's about rewriting the story. The journey back begins in a strange silence. Roach's steady gait matches the heavy rhythm in your chest as the weight of what lies ahead settles in. The girl rides beside you, quiet but alert, like a shadow tethered to your side. Yennefer's hands weave subtle spells to cloak your passage, a shimmering veil against prying eyes. Mainstream Witcher fact: you remember that witches, despite their stoic reputation, often carry deep bonds, sometimes even fragile friendships that persist beyond the battlefield. Your connection with Yennefer has weathered storms you didn't expect, and now this new bond with the girl feels like a spark in the dark. Fringe tidbit: there's a tale among the old witches about a mirror child, a being who can reflect not just appearances but hidden truths, bending realities with their presence. The story is dismissed as superstition, but now you're living it. As the sun sinks low, painting the sky in bruised purples and fading gold, the woods grow denser, shadows stretching longer like silent sentinels. The hunt is coming. You can feel it, an ancient, relentless force that devours everything in its path. You've faced the wild hunt before, creatures as cold and merciless as the void itself, and they leave nothing but frost and despair. You tighten your grip on the reins and glance at the girl. Her eyes flicker with quiet determination, a fierce light that belies her delicate frame. Suddenly, a chill wind sweeps through the trees. The ground trembles beneath you, and spectral riders appear, ghostly figures clad in frost and shadow, their eyes glowing with an eerie blue fire. The hunt. Yennefer mutters an incantation, the air crackling as magic surges around you both. You draw Moonlight's bite, the silver gleaming with a cold intensity. Roach whinnies, sensing the danger. The battle is brutal and swift. You move like a shadow, steel flashing as you cut through the ethereal riders, your signs flickering in rapid succession. Quen shields you from icy blows. Igni bursts forth, a blaze of fire that sends the hunt reeling. The girl stands close, her presence a beacon amid the chaos. When the last rider falls, the forest falls silent again. Your breath is ragged, and your muscles scream from the fight, but you are alive. The girl looks up at you, eyes steady. "This is only the beginning," she says. "The paths still twist. The story is far from over." You nod, feeling the weight of those words settle deep inside. As night wraps its quiet blanket over the world, you realize that your life, the endless hunt, the impossible choices, has changed forever. The future is uncertain, but for once, you feel a sliver of hope. Roach snorts softly beneath you, and Yennefer's voice breaks the silence with a tired, sarcastic, "Well, Geralt, ready for the next nightmare?" You smirk, because you know the answer. This is your story, your legend, and you're not done yet. Now, as the stars begin to blink awake in the velvet sky, let your mind drift away from the harsh clang of steel and the cold breath of monsters. The world around you softens, shadows melting into quiet whispers. Feel the calm pulse of night as it lulls you gently, a slow and steady rhythm matching your heartbeat. In this stillness, remember that every choice you've made, every battle fought, has led you here, to this moment of peace before the dawn. Let the warmth of that thought settle like a comforting cloak. Breathe deep, and let the edges of your worries blur. The hunt can wait. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now, rest. The stars will watch over you, and the night will keep its secrets safe. Sleep well, traveler. The path is long, but your strength is greater still. Until next time, rest easy, Witcher.